Hey everybody, I'm here. Everybody, 1, 2, I'm here. Everybody, that's right. 1, 2, I'm here. Hey. So today we've got and hello. Can you hear me? I'm guessing so. So I'm going to try a couple of things today. I think we may only be myself and Mr. Hilton today, which is small but perfectly full. But all the people who've been on tour seem to be traveling at the same time, which is today. So there we go. But I'm sure it'll be fun. So hello to you YouTube chatties. Hello to the chat room chats. I was going to try something because I've got, let's see if this will work. Let's just try something a minute. I've got... the third isn't right. I'm just going to go and check something out. So can you hear me all right? Yeah, 1, 2. Right. Quick tour. So the software we're using, which is actually very cool. So we'll just come over here. What I've got is the SEO2. I'm using the LFO, the oscillator out of here, going into the VCF here. So that's modulating the filter of the SEO2. Need to tune it a bit, obviously. This is just the SEO2 with an extra oscillator, not tuned. And I've got the, what have I got? I've got the CV coming from oscillator 1, which I can plug in. So this is modulating the filter. Bit of delay.
the audio input coming from there. Add a bit of that. Additional filter. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that because I wanted to experiment with a mobile camera as well, which I have. So there's that. So I could just hang that call up.
Here we go.
Here we go. Back again.
Just hang that one up. I don't know if you got all of that. Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. Right, I'm back in camera world. Did that come through? I don't know whether or not that actually. Oh, I need to shut some windows. Let's close some of those. Shut that. Excellent. Did you get the direct audio as well? I was just trying to figure that, because one thing we're thinking about is obviously people can dial in remotely from their Android cameras at events, if you see what I'm saying. I mean, if you've got an audio feed, there's a possibility for doing some interesting stuff going on there. Yeah, well, the focus, the camera is my phone. That's why it was what it was. So I don't know if you could hear the audio while the mobile was very narrow band and very loud. Yeah, okay. Be interesting to see some tests. I mean, obviously I can't monitor it while I'm doing it myself. I could go on the street as well, because I guess I could just use mobile data, because I've got plenty of that. I mean, it's just a question of thinking about whether these things are possible. So today, I think we've got Rich Hilton, who will be here at some point. But as you had in the chat room, I think it was, just brought my attention. I just posted this because this, I don't know if you've seen this. I'll just play it because it is absolutely awesome. This is John Heath. And what he's done is created a version of Inception, time from Inception, just using the Mini Brew, if you can believe it. And his skill with getting the sounds to sound right and building the dynamics are incredible. Just check this out. Beautiful. There was a live feed from the synth as well as my voice. Just breathtaking. It only gets better as well. Yeah, it really is multi-track magic, isn't it, Heathcliff? Lovely piece of music as well. Yeah, I wonder how much time it did take to get the detail in. I mean, when you hear the dynamics, it's astonishing. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I really, really hope it's real, because it's such a work of art. Piece of music for one, and it's also just brilliantly executed. I won't play too much more because I'll probably get busted somehow. Who knows? So how is everybody then? Everybody well? I suppose you can't answer me really, apart from in the chat room. That's fair enough. Just waiting really to see. I think we may possibly have DivKid Ben Wilson. I'm not sure, but I think. It'll be me and Rich. So it's a quiet. Well, who knows? Sometimes when it's one-on-one, it's particularly good fun because everybody can enjoy the whole thing. Right, I need to 1 2 2 2. I need to get my levels right. Sorry about this. Just a bit of checkity check. So, what's been happening? I've been working. Well, we launched our T-shirts. I don't suppose you saw that. If you haven't already, I'm going to plug it in the show, but I'm going to plug it now as well. Yes, we've got Sonicstate designs. So we've got T-shirts in keys and wires design in black and charcoal and is that dark and blue and chocolate brown. Got a couple of hoodies as well. This is with keys and wires. A guy called Jason Mastrandrea did these designs. Brilliant job. And also mugs, which I thought was really apt for a nice cup of tea or coffee or beer, perhaps. You can get those on teespring.com, which is, if you just go to, actually, if you go to the site, it's that the ads and stuff are all over it. So do check them out. And they've got UK and EU shipping points. So when you go there, it says, are you from the Americas or rest of the world? So if you're from Europe, you go rest of the world. So please do. You order that shirt in chocolate. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to all of those who did order already. The more, the better. So, yeah, we thought we'd give it a try. And we've got some other designs coming as well. We've had a design in from a chap called Ben Shannon, who, I don't know if you remember, I did an interview for CBC. Well, not really an interview. They cut my voice up and did it for a sort of feature on iOS stuff, and I was used in that, and he wanted to return the favour. So he said, I'll do you a T-shirt design. So here's the T-shirt design. So I'm hoping that will sometime when he's finished it will come to light. So yeah. But it's a great, yes, it's a great way to help support the channel because obviously we make a little bit on each one and it just kind of helps us keep going and do all of those things. I mean, we do have other things as well, but as with everything in these days, you've got to diversify. So we've got even Australia. They haven't got a drop ship in Australia. I don't know where it would be quicker to send it from Australia or from the US. That's an interesting thought. Don't know which. Well, that design will be coming along at some time in the future. So just make sure that our chat rooms. Hey, Hiltonius, how are you doing? So, yeah, we've got 10 minutes or so before it all comes off. We may, you never know, may get to see Ben as well. It's possible. So what I now need to do, I'm trying to bring the Facebook chats in. Let's see if this is not yet. So then I can go, okay, so I just need. So we need to clear. So I think we'll turn that one off. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. Ah, we have Rich. Look at that. I didn't even have to make your window bigger or anything. Isn't that astonishing?
That's because I'm losing weight.
You're on you're not on your main mic. I think you're on your.
Let me see where in this world that takes place. Is that a setting in Chrome?
It should be. You should be able to on the right of the address bar. At the end, there should be a sort of little icon that says, that's like, you know, permissions or something. I think it's right at the end before you get to any bookmarks. And if you click on that, it shows you what the current page requires, I think. On the right-hand side, there's where the star is.
On the right side.
At the end of the address bar, there should be a little icon. I can't remember what it looks like, to be honest.
I see, you know, a listing that includes settings, for example, but this is very odd.
Let me see if I can.
I sound far away.
I sound far away. Let me see if I can find it on my system as well. If I just check on mine, then I'll be able to tell you. Let me just see if that will work, because I know what it's called. I can remember then what it's.
Let me.
There should be a little.
Hello.
Try that.
It is a show dedicated to electronic music, after all.
That was weird. I was getting a feedback loop because that's no different.
You don't hear me differently? It's
tap your mic. Tap your mic. No. It might be that you need to hang up and call in again and see what I mean. Did you see there's a little camera icon on the right hand side of the address bar? There should be
a camera icon on the right hand side.
So it's actually where the URL is, at the very end of the URL, there should be a little camera. If you click on that.
Microphone, look at that. What a dude. What a guy. What a guy.
No, does it work?
And now, is it closer?
It's
not closer.
No, you might have to. What might you have to do?
Let's see. Continue without access your camera, microphone. Yes. Manage media settings. Just why not?
Yeah, I think you have to say that in there as well, if I remember correctly. I think we went through this before with somebody, but I can't remember the details. Because funnily enough, everybody we've done this with has been calling in on mobile devices.
I don't need it to ask me before accessing the microphone. However, I am going to hang up and call you back.
Yeah, see if that does it.
I can figure out how to do that. There we go. Yes, I'll be back.
I'll be back. We're getting there. Okay, so we're just waiting for Rich to come back so that we can hook the mic up, because what tends to happen is because this works in the Chrome browser, the calling system, it just goes, oh, I'll have your internal mic and your camera, not maybe a separate audio device in your camera, I think. We did it with somebody last week. I think it was with Gaz, actually. So we'll just wait for Rich to come back. How you all doing in the YouTube room?
Any difference?
Ah, listen to that. There he is.
I'll take that as a good sign.
That's a good one.
Why does this sound so weird today? I've got the in-ears placed weirdly.
I can't tell from here. Even though the video quality is good, it's not that good.
No, I could break out the heavy artillery if I had to, but no, this is all right. Hey. Oh, a bottom end comes back when I smile. Maybe I should smile a lot. Is that a life lesson?
You've lost weight. You've lost weight in the ears. I could do with a bit of that.
Something like that. Well, I have actually, my ear molds are brand new this year. They were actually taken last year while on the road and digitally. Have you seen the new digital scanning technology they use for this sort of thing?
No, I haven't.
They don't
no.
fill your ears with goop anymore. They sit out there with this little gun,
They fill it with lasers,
aiming it into your ear, and on a screen before you draws out, almost like the fingerprint recognition, like one line at a time, the internal canal shape of your ear.
Wow.
And you sit there and watch this as it takes place, and it doesn't hurt a bit. Unlike certain other scans you might be watching. And
must be
and at the end of the day, they've got these incredibly accurate, to within how recently did you clean the wax out of there anyway, degree, and which actually they do if needed. They complimented me on the hygiene of my ear canals. I was very pleased about that. But anyway, I have fairly new scans and brand new in-ears, and I changed the color from black to skin tone, and I'm much happier with that in the pictures, and it's all good. I love my in-ears.
Excellent.
I think they're perfect for me. And now that I've heard the other models of their line, even the more expensive ones, I'm convinced that I was right about that. Because you can't know, really, going in. You don't really get to hear it the way you're going to hear it on the way into the purchase process. You're really guessing based on what they tell you.
Right, I see. Yeah, I can understand that. I wonder if I do this.
In this case, it worked out really well.
There we go. We got a sort of.
These are my backups. These are Shures that I use.
Ah, okay.
They're not molded. They have little, foam tips on them that you can interchange, and they're 535s. Shure 535s.
I've never tried in-ears. I mean, I've got these buds here, which always require a bit of kind of wedging in, which is where I end up with this sort of, dangly business. But maybe I should try.
It's
harder.
An interesting discussion because there are people in my band who will swear that they never want to use them. And I swear I never want to not use them ever again if I can avoid it. But pretty soon, I think I'm about to play a gig where I can't avoid it. So, but mostly, certainly with Chic, I'm so happy to have my in-ears.
That's the only thing that I find, because you get that slight disconnect because of the.
I don't feel disconnected at all. I don't talk to the audience, so maybe there's that.
But what about if somebody's shouting from across the stage, hey, Rich, da 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 da, whatever?
You wouldn't hear that anyway. I mean, you wouldn't, and there isn't any of that shouting sort of thing going on.
Well, no, I suppose I was just thinking, say, for instance, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and somebody goes, hold on. I've just got to. Whatever.
No, I can hear that. I mean, I can hear what it sounds like a freaking recording studio in my ears, and it doesn't matter the size of the venue.
Right.
Which to me, and being able to control that and the mix and the level of the mix on my own is just, I don't even have to mix it because we've got God's gift to monitor engineering over there taking care of that. And he really is incredible. And the level of consistency we get from night to night, my sound checks are basically for other people at this point because I'm fine just going up there and listening to Marco De La Torre's mix every night. It sounds wonderful, and I don't feel disconnected, and I can hear great, and I don't have to listen to the stage volume and the whole blooming hockey rinkness of it all, and I'm very pleased with it.
Oh, that's true.
Other guys swear by not having it and need all that and want all that and feel that, and it makes a difference to them. But
I guess it takes some getting. Yeah, because with the size of like a venue, when you get that kind of like, the bass drums coming back half a second later and you get that kind of thing, it cuts a lot of that out, right? So you don't have to, you're going to get a little bit of it down the mic, but not as much.
Right. Very, very much less. You do hear the ambience to some extent, certainly in a highly ambient environment. I've also learned this year that they're actually designing these venues, these arena venues, more with a mind towards the fact that there are going to be concerts in there. Now, that's not their primary purpose, but they sound better than they used to. And combined with line array technology, speaker technology, you walk halfway back in a room and listen to a good band sound checking, and it's like, wow. It's like listening to a great, hi-fi system or studio monitor rig.
Yeah,
in a nice room. It really is. It's remarkable.
No, I remember when we did when they were doing production rehearsals for Goldfrapp, and I'd been working on the album a lot, and there were tracks that I'd been, I had a very strong audio memory of what they were sounding like. And I was in the main room, and then I just came in for one of the tracks. I mean, it wasn't in a PA system, but it was, you know, they had a nice set of kind of PA style speakers with I think it was I'm sure I've told this story before, and it was a track that I'd been working on for ages, where, you know, that I was programmed all the drums, and the drummer was triggering, and I walked in and I said, "Oh, are you playing the CD?" And he go, "No, this is it." And I was just like, Jesus, I mean, it was so close that I was kind of like blown away. I really kind of surprised me at how good, or how close to the record it sounded, which may be good or not good, but it was very impressive.
The state of sound reinforcement has advanced by leaps and bounds since the introduction of line array technology. And the funny thing is, or at least funny to me, almost 20 years ago, I met a guy at a party who told me about all of this and explained it to me in exact detail before it had taken hold. And at the time, the only company that had done it was L Acoustics, and this guy named Heil had designed and written this paper about it. And I went in and I read all this stuff about it, and this whole idea of a cylindrical wave front that's coherent and doesn't require you to blow away the people in the front to get the high frequencies to the back. And it all made perfect sense. And look at us now. Everybody, everything, every arena you walk into has somebody's version of that, and it's usually not L Acoustics. But when it is, it's a happy day, because that stuff sounds amazing, the L Acoustic stuff. When I did used to use speakers, every time I'd walk in and see a pair of L Acoustics at my feet, I was like, yes, because it's going to sound like that good. But even the minimum state of line arrays these days, even in in your local park, where some local sound companies fly in 5 cabinets on each side with maybe 1 sub or 2, and it's not a high powered thing, and it's not some kind of big deal arena show. Even in a smaller application, it makes a huge difference. It sounds so much better and so much more coherent. As you walk through the audience, it's so much more consistent than like force feeding speaker frequencies into the room or into the space. It really, it's huge, and it makes it possible for a lot of things to happen in big spaces that sounded like crap before. Yeah, no, very true. Well, it looks like, Rich, it's going to be the Me and You show. Ben said he may be able to get back in time, and he may well show up. If he doesn't, then I'd love to see Ben.
Yeah. Okay. Are you
fun
ready?
To hear Ben's perspective. Yeah.
Shall we do a show right now? I'm trying to remember what I have to do. I think I have to do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode number 503. That's right. This week we're recording today, Wednesday, the 30th of August, and we're live streaming on YouTube. We've got our YouTube chatties here, which I now bring in via their very own window. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all there. And also our IRC people, which you can see the address there, sonicstate.com live, if you fancy using that one. That's entirely possible as well. So I want to say thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you very much to Isotope for providing this week's prize. We will, of course, be onto that very shortly. And, we will give you the opportunity to win a copy of Isotope RX6, which, as you know, is the de facto audio restoration and repair setup. So please do enjoy when the competition time comes. I'm prevaricating a little bit. I guess it's because I'm slowing down my introduction, because we have our singular guest this week is Mr. Richard Hilton. Mr. Rich Hilton is here from Chic and from the Nile Rodgers studio. He's been out on the road for a long time, and I know you were at an airport last week trying to get on. For some reason, it didn't work out, and I don't know whether that was because you were trying to get in on another channel. But anyway, it's great to have you, Rich. How are you?
I am very well, thank you, and it's great to be had.
Excellent. Well, this week, we can kind of take it easy, because we can just shoot the breeze and move it to and from. In case you're wondering what this is all about, this is music technology to do with This is a podcast, rather, to do with music technology. We cover all kinds of stuff, whether it's live production, studio production, synthesizers, electronic music instruments, other kind of instruments too, as hopefully we'll get onto as well. Lots of different things, anything to do with the technology and the kind of ecosystem surrounding the creation and making of music and digital stuff, all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, Rich, you've been back. Where were you last week? How long have you been back?
I've been back 1 week. Actually, I came back last Wednesday, as you noted. I was in the airport in Detroit at the time when I was trying to hook up with you guys, with a little bit of time to kill. And
okay.
Flight home. And
would have been interesting to see.
Well, I tried. Nice. I guess this interface doesn't work on mobile devices. This particular interface.
It only work. No, it doesn't work on iOS at all.
Right, and so I figured I'd try the back door with Skype, and I guess that didn't work out either. And
never mind.
So I liked being a listener because you guys had a great show anyway.
It was jolly good fun, and it all seemed to work, which is always nice when that happens. So let's get on to a few topics, shall we? First one. Now, this is going to be interesting, I think, because, well, let's see. What do you make of it? This is a lady called Taryn Southern, who has, this is the first of a kind of collaborative composition with an AI entity called Amper, which I think we may have talked about in the past. And this composition, so the Amper handled all the music and the arrangement. She did the melody and the vocal. Everything else was handled by them, I believe. And there's a new album coming out, which is entirely the result of this kind of AI concept of collaboration. I mean, whether or not, you know, the music floats your boat or not, you know, it's a presentable product, and therefore, you know, what's interesting about this kind of notion of this collaborative idea. Now, I don't know if you saw any of the other stuff with the Amper Music stuff, because it's based on, if I bring this up, this is the web interface for Amper Music, and what it allows you to do is kind of create these kind of sound beds based on, you know, mood selection. And I think I got one set up here because I was trying, I thought, I know, I'll have a go at the Sonic Talk intro. So let's just... I've had a couple of hits. Hey. So, you know, I mean, very basic, and I haven't maybe necessarily found the ideal thing. I know, Rich, what do you think about this? I mean, there are two aspects, aren't there? There's the one sort of like replacing the human input, but the other one is sort of the notion of being able to collaborate without maybe having anyone to collaborate with, which I think could be positive, right?
I think there's a name for that. But anyway, without going there, you got farther in that software than I did. I found that software unbelievably confounding to use after I went through that whole rigmarole of creating a false persona so that I could log in just to try it out. They're not clear about the extent to which AI is interacting on the creation of that piece of music in the video that we've looked at.
No.
And the piece of music in that video was actually surprisingly good. And almost, I will say this, it was utterly devoid of mistakes. Now, if that feeds into the AI nature, rather, of the creation process, that would be interesting to me. But it's not real clear. And it even says on the documentation related to the video that it's not real clear what role exactly the VI is playing. And like I said, I couldn't get this software. I spent, I don't know, some short amount of time on this software and found it, I would say, somewhere between confounding and almost maddening to use. So I couldn't understand why or how. Maybe I need a 5-minute, maybe I didn't see the right 5-minute tutorial, but it just didn't seem to float my boat creatively. The whole way you had to move things around and grab things, it just didn't feel smooth.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, that's the thing, it's about the interactive. Now I can give you a little bit of a guide. So this is the thing that I did with the Sonic Talk,
right, I see that.
Video, right? So I've got 2 hit points just to hit the video, and what you do is, if I edit that, I'm just going to kind of change the mood and style. So we're currently at dark dramatic cinema. We could perhaps go with epic percussion. I'll save that. And now I'm going to, I think I just have to render it, don't I? So, because this,
yeah, you have
this
to
is
render everything just to hear it.
Well, that's makes
just
sense.
to preview it.
Okay, here we go. Here it comes. So this is the render process. I mean, this is only a few minutes, a few seconds long. It's a 16-second piece, and we don't know what. There we go. It's there. So let's see what they did, what it came up with now. Let me see. Let's have a look. What's this one? Okay, the video's not playing, but
right.
Yeah,
but
quite, a lot of trial and error.
But it felt like hand me a shovel. I mean, every single thing I wanted to do, I felt like I had to dig another shovel full of dirt, and it was like, good God, really? This feels like a creative project. You've got umpteen DAWs. The elementary versions are generally free or less than $100 that can do this substantially. Now, I don't quite. Also, it's the interfacing. Just to do what you just did and change that bed, you had to go into a menu and click on a thing and do this, and it's just there's no like coherent browser window like everybody else has. There's just so many operational things that felt like pushing rocks uphill to me that I just couldn't see myself.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't speak to anything about the AI and how it's interacting and what it's doing. And
bearing in mind it's a browser interface.
Maybe if I did get deeper into it, I'd have a clearer picture of all that. But am I really looking for a machine to call my own? No. But if interesting results can be had, it's the same interest I had in random processes back when I first met Brian Eno in print. And he was talking about, happy accidents and random processes and things like that. It's that same kind of interest. Yeah, sure. If you suggest some stuff to me that kind of catches my ear, but I'd like to mess with it, then that would be great. But mostly I kind of like doing it myself. But I could probably get to like this too.
I think the thing is that this interface is really designed for. I need just a sort of generic. I need 3 minutes of some kind of music bed. I mean, we are asking it effectively to kind of create a sting, which is perhaps not what it's designed for. This is only 16 or 17 seconds long, and it's to sync to a video. If it was just a general mood, and that's the nature of. So if you look at the kind of the moods, then that's the sort of the mood and style. That's where you're kind of working towards. So it definitely. It definitely has a different, thing. If I wanted a dramatic tension bed and just needed something that filled that vibe, it may well develop more than it's had the opportunity to do in this kind of 16-second spot. But I just thought what was interesting is I can actually, I could bring in a video and sort of have something work towards it, maybe have some hit points and what have you. The classic koto drum when the scene cuts or whatever. I wonder what this one sounds like. Just curious. Let's see. It's very quiet. That's the one thing I will say. But it did sort of come up with an ending.
I could do such a narration. A man and his microphone.
But exactly, I think that's what it's for. That's what it's for.
Maybe Andy in the room.
I know. I mean, it does. I mean, the one thing, because people have been saying, well, okay, what happens with, say, the publishing? Because Taryn Southern is a very well-known, successful kind of YouTube artiste. She's got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of YouTube video hits. She's making a career out of doing her thing. So this is yet another kind of, I guess, publicity point. But she hasn't had to give away any publishing. The whole point about this is this is royalty. You use it and that's it. And I suppose that's the idea. But that I wonder if there could be a retrospective. What would happen if the guy who wrote the code, say this hit became that song that's as the music bed under all the Olympics in the it's a massive, massive, massive record, and he goes, hold on a minute, I should have some of that, and then there's some sort of lawyer has to unpick all of that. I wonder if it could be done retrospectively. That's the sort of stuff you got to worry about, I suppose.
I imagine it's more along the lines of the way sample libraries are licensed. So if you use a sound that's distinctly from Omnisphere, chances are Eric Persing isn't going to be on my doorstep tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Because that's what you're paying for, I guess, isn't it?
Right. On so in all of that stuff that I basically signed over to him and never read, I'm sure it says something about how you have the right to use it fairly in some production that you're doing without necessarily even crediting them for it. I could be wrong about that, and I'm sure if I am, all hell will rain down upon me in the chat room. But that's, I think, my understanding of fair use with regards to buying software. And this is buying software.
Yeah, I guess
sure,
it is.
It's content creation, and we're going to talk about a lot more software today that's also part of the content creation process. But I think that to the extent that you're creating it, you get to say it's yours for the moment, at least.
I guess it's an interesting thing. As I said before, I don't want to go on about it too much. The idea of having something reacting to your input, because it says that that's what's happening to a degree, but that interface isn't providing that. So maybe she got access to something else that was a bit more kind of inspirational. Who knows? Right. What about this then? Is this the right video? Yeah, I think it might be. This looks pretty cool. This is a new
no kidding, huh?
Max for Live instrument called Iota. This is from
Watch.
Dylan Baston, out today. Very similar kind of look to it. So you create zones and move it around, record the movements. I imagine if you put a timed piece of audio in there that's the same tempo as your song, and then create quantized loops in there, you can create all sorts of cool stuff. I don't know what the limitation, how many of these you can put in. I won't play the whole thing, but that looked like you could create little regions and then trigger them with MIDI. I mean, this is actually, it's a really cool interface. And what's more cool about it is it's done in Max for Live, which is even more impressive, really. I know, I get the feeling, Rich, you thought, that's pretty cool, right?
I was looking for my wallet.
29 euros. It's not going to cost you
I know
a lot.
how much it costs. It doesn't cost much, and it's unbelievable what it does. It's just so cool. It's enough to make me dig out Ableton and start using it again. Just because I, kind of got into using other things for a while here, and I kind of like moving around through different environments. And this is something that would make me fire it up. That and your synth would make me fire it up and get interested.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about it, because things do come along once in a while that just have a really obvious and beautifully clear interface, and that's just one of those things. That's obviously, the guy's quite interesting. Dylan Baston is he works with performance artists and installations, so he's obviously very creative. So this, it's got a kind of the RX or Iris vibe to it, but it's a different. It's a slightly different thing, but yeah, it does look pretty cool.
It looks amazing to me. I will buy it. I didn't buy it, but I will buy it.
Okay, fair enough. Just should also say for you to have Ableton Live, and you have to have Max for Live, because it runs as a Max for Live device. So that is just the way it goes. But I mean, what I find really encouraging is that like I say, every once in a while, something comes along that is kind of quite groundbreaking, and it seems like an obvious way. So, this is something that certainly me as a commentator always looking for. Something you just go, yeah, that makes sense, and that's really cool. And it may just move the entire sort of consciousness of GUI design on a couple of steps, and maybe people will adopt that kind of idea as well. I guess that's the same thing that what happened with the Isotope, because it's the sort of thought of drawing on spectrograms and selecting individual regions and all that.
I was just thinking it reminds me of Iris in some level. Yeah. And not a lot, but it makes me want to use them together. For example, Iris is probably the next thing I'm reaching for when I'm using this thing, because I want to see how I can layer this kind of texturally evolving thing to make a really cool bed. because like not unlike the previous device, it is sort of about textural bedding, this sort of thing, although it could get into something much more interesting rhythmically too. But I'm interested in it. I really am interested in this thing.
Well, you want to head. It's featured on the iZotope store. There's also, if you go to dylanbaston.com, there's all his various other projects as well, and you can see what.
You mean Ableton store, I would think, not.
Yeah.
iZotope
Did I
store.
say sorry? The Ableton store, and then so it's featured on the front page of Ableton at the moment. But these are all the other projects that he's done, which is some interesting collaborations with visual artists and touch sensitive paint and kind of really quite weird looking stuff. Anyway. So, cool. Let's see. It's probably, I wonder if we get another one in before we go anywhere else. Maybe what I'll do, actually, let's have a little word from our sponsors. This is RX6. This is something that we're giving away, or iZotope are giving away. This RX6 is kind of de facto audio restoration and fixing software. I mean, you can't really say there's anything else out there that does all of this. It's got some really, specifically for music production, some really useful things like getting rid of ground hum and amp noise, denoise, declipping, very, very useful. There's also functions which allow you to remove breath and mouth noises, particularly for very clean vocals, which is something that is very prevalent in today's production, so very useful that way. Also, a spectral de-esser. De-essing, as you know, is not the most easy thing to set up, and this is a slightly different way of looking at it. Spectral denoise, deconstruct, declip. There's also batch editing, so you can edit a number of tracks from, say, multi-track if you were to remove a noise in the room or whatever. RX6, it's the industry standard for audio repair. If you want to check it out, go over to iZotope.com/RX6 and you'll be able to download a 10-day free demo. We also had a competition from last week, episode 502. We have a winner called Michael Raymond, whose Twitter handle is @MilkyRay with 2 Y's on the end. And he said, need to win that. Fix the Mix RX6, and you have. So if you get in touch, iZotope will be giving that to you via email. You'll get it dunked into your account and you'll have a full version of it. And we're also looking for another entry for competition for next week's show. So if you, basically what you need to do is tweet the hashtag repair and restore. That's all one word. So repair and restore and the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. So if you're listening on audio, I'll just say that again. That's the hashtag repair and restore and the hashtag RX6 @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. You need to be in Twitter to do this, but it's a really painless exercise, and then we can easily search for the hashtags and pick a winner. It's just a nice and easy way to get random winners to the solution. Once again, we thank iZotope for their continued support of the show by providing the prize for this week. Thank you very much. So, I think this one is probably something that, well, let's play this because I know you passed this on, Rich, and I thought it was lovely. Let's see if we can play this. This is a chap called Peter S. Overson, who is obviously a violin maker, and this is just like a kind of it's like you get those movies where you can see how factories work, and this is just somebody making a violin. These are all the processes that go into making a violin. And they are legion. And it's quite hypnotic, this. So there he is sort of carving the shape. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's so many stages to it. See if we can find, so he's added the beading, and now he's doing a bit of planing. And then we're drilling the F holes, making the outside bit. The scroll neck. I mean, I don't know how long it actually takes. It doesn't say in there, I don't think, how long it takes. Gluing the neck on. Now doing the varnishing. And, oh, there we go. It seemed to have gone now. I know, Rich, I just thought it was awesome. And as I think you did as well. There's something really hypnotic. I mean, and just to see the amount of care and attention that's gone into making some sort of something physical like that.
Well, part of me is the old guy who says, remember when. And while I'm not, representing the Blacksmiths Union or anything like that, the Buggy Whip Makers Convention or any of that, it still is kind of interesting to see that kind of craftsmanship still at work in absolutely the most analog of all settings, which is essentially building a fancy wooden box with holes in it and running strings over it. And let's all say a hallelujah to that idea, because how much great music has come as a result of running a string across a wooden box. And when you see what goes into making that wooden box and how he's got all these jigs that describe the exact shape of all that stuff he's doing by hand has to end up being an exact shape matching this jig that he's got that defines the shape of the instrument. And those kinds of measurements and experiments that went into determining those things have existed across centuries. And it's a fascinating thing. And I think for a long time, craftsmanship was kind of like passe in our culture. And now I think maybe we were talking about this the other day, that the best examples I can think of this kind of craftsmanship brought into the next generation is that however many hundreds of guys there are out there right now in their garages building Eurorack modules that never existed before to do things that we didn't even think about doing in the 60s when modular synthesizers first existed. And guys who are sitting at home creating software that take things that used to be impossible to do and make them not just possible, but relatively easy to do. And that includes some of the kind of stuff we just take for granted and talked about, in these last few software things, even the one where I couldn't get their interface to work like sufficiently well to me. I mean, that stuff didn't exist on any level before. And there is craftsmanship, and maybe it doesn't involve horseshoes, buggy whips, or woodworking quite as much as it used to, although it's still very romantic when it does. It's still an amazing thing. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I wonder, looking at that, obviously, those kind of instruments made to that degree of level and skill are going to be expensive. I don't know how long that process takes, whether it's like a week or 2 days or 3 weeks. I've no idea what that time frame was. It didn't say, how long that was filmed over. But just the cost of paying for that level of craftsmanship is kind of prohibitive to a lot of people. So, I'm guessing he's a master maker rather than somebody who works in a factory that kind of stamps them out a bit more. I don't know.
Well, the process that he was going through takes, I would think weeks to achieve something like that, because there are stages along the way where you're forming wood into a certain shape that need time for the wood to assume that shape, matching the curvature of the walls of the violin to the base plate that you've made and carved out and sanded down until it matched that jig exactly. There's just so much that goes into it. It's unbelievable. And there's, 10,000 ways to do it wrong and like maybe less than 3 to do it right. And I do know some people who make violins, neither of whom I'm in regular contact with, but I admire their work from a distance. And one of them makes really, really revolutionary instruments, not just violins, but mandocellos. He works at Ithaca String Works in Ithaca, New York. And his name's Eric, and he makes these incredible instruments, and he plays them very, very well too.
I wonder, do you think that
this fascinates me?
Do you think there's an equivalent here? Because obviously, it takes a lot of skill and craft to create brilliant software or brilliant instruments. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of hours, for instance, Dylan had to make his thing. I suppose the thing is once it's made, then it's kind of one to many. It's like a template, and then it can be redistributed. So the value of that craft seems to become just has less. It just seems perceived as less, whereas it's still eminently skillful, but in a very different way.
I agree, and it's being applied differently, and in many cases, in our experience, to more esoteric and electronic applications. But there are still craft fairs where you go where people are doing stuff with their hands, and there are still guitar makers, and I met a few of them during this past tour, who are making by hand new vintage guitars that look like vintage guitars but play like the vintage guitars, but instead of costing $85,000 they cost less than $4,000. And for people who want that kind of quality with those parts that have actually been, they're using magnets from the 1960s and winding the coils themselves using specific kinds of wire that go back to the designs of these old guitars. And these guys are, I'm serious. And I met a guy who's basically revolutionized the bolt-on neck on some level. And then there's amp makers. I have another friend who I met who's a guitar amp maker, and you look at the inside of this thing and it looks like a work of art. And his amps sound incredible. And you know, I'm torturing myself over the fact that I don't have half what he expects to get and deserves to get for what this thing costs.
I suppose that's
so yeah, it does exist.
But what's interesting about this is, you know, say you're a professional user, you know, you buy one of his amps or you buy one of this guy's violins and you're gigging and you're performing, you're going to have a second, you know, a backup, something what happens if, you know, you leave it at home or it breaks or whatever the reason is, you know, what happens then, you know, or if, you know, for instance, this handmade amp that costs, you know, X $1,000, you kind of, in your touring, you're kind of going to need a backup. Are you going to get two of them, or are you going to have something else that's sort of not quite so, you know, expensive or whatever? And then if that's the case, do the people that you're performing for kind of get somehow less of what they should be getting when you're playing? I mean, these are questions that, you know, that I suppose, you know, you might not think about, but it gives us the notion of the value of this time and the value of that stuff and how maybe
it depends on your
edged out.
To your question about whether or not you bring it on the road, that's a whole separate issue. And typically somebody who can afford something like this can afford two of them. And what you typically do is buy two of them, but you don't necessarily buy two of the guitar. You do buy two of the amp. For example, you want an amp and a backup typically, if depending on the budget of your tour and what you're carrying the gear. I mean, if you're renting U-Hauls, excuse me, to take your drum kit, your keyboard rig, and your small PA to the venue, chances are you don't have two of everything. It's not like Noah's Ark in there.
Yeah.
But if you're on a major tour, it is like Noah's Ark in there because you're going to have two. You're going to have backups for everything because stuff happens.
Yeah, I guess that's very true. Very, very true. But it's an interesting, I just thought it was a lovely piece. There's no other reason for it other than that.
Yeah,
while I was on that subject, I don't know if did you see this thing as well? This is, well, actually, before we go there, I'm going to spring this on you because I told you about this. I wanted to tell you about, hey, we got T-shirts. Hey, look, we've finally got our merch together. So we've basically got the first design that we put out was it's called Keys and Wires, and it's by a guy called Jason Mastrandrea, who very kindly did this for us. He's from Canada. You can get them in various different colors. Let's have a look. Blue and black, and then we got a few hoodies as well. In different colors. Sold a few of those actually, and some mugs for those of you who are fans of beverages. We've got the logo on mugs as well. You want to head over, if you just go over to Sonicstate, actually probably the best thing, because there's links to it all over the place. There should be ads on the site. So if you fancy a shirt, we've also got, if I show you, let me see, I think we've got a classic logo as well, because we were immediately asked, why can we just have a classic design logo? So there we go. That's available on the mug and on the hoodie. I like that mug. I've ordered them myself. I was hoping they were going to arrive before the show so I could be sporting one and drinking from the mug, but unfortunately it didn't quite work out that. I'm told the end of the week. So yeah, we're working on it. Rich, you're definitely
kiss this thing goodbye as soon as that mug shows up. I promise
you're definitely going to be one of the. We'll send you one. Don't you worry. What would you?
No. I'm like the Buddhist at the hot dog vendor. Make me one with everything.
Ah.
You ever heard that joke? What does the Buddhist ask the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. I want one of everything. I'll buy it. I'm very kind of you. I'm a greedy black duck. I want one of everything.
So yes, finally we got some merch together, and if you're looking for a way to kind of fly the flag or help support the site, then yeah, just go for it. It's kind of fun, you know, and we're very pleased. I want to say thank you to Jason for helping us out there. But check this out, Rich. This is awesome. So this is I just found this. In fact, I think Azzy had in the chat room posted this. This is a guy called John Heath, who just made the theme from Inception.
I actually watched some of this before the show when you were running it.
And it blew me away, almost to the point where I thought, is that real? So this is all done on an Arturia mini boot. I mean, multi-tracked to death and processed to death, but still, what about that?
It's a stunning achievement.
I'll move it on a bit because it does develop. I mean, it's so, but when you get to the strings. I mean, just the kind of the mixing and the inclusion of dynamics in there. There's obviously the guitar part, which has got obviously using an onboard distortion in the DAW. And it goes right up to the kind of... Oh no, it's obviously... Drops back down again. Let me go into that. There we go. I don't know, if anything was an advert for a synthesizer, there it is right there. I don't know how many views this thing's had. Probably not. No, only 2,500. Hopefully we can increase that a bit. Oh, Rich, I mean, forget what he used just for now, but what a beautiful interpretation. I mean, that was it sounded like the real thing. So I know I'm not totally familiar with the real thing, but it sounded like it had all of that kind of emotion and moves. But beautiful, right?
Absolutely. A fantastic achievement. Great job. And a testament to how great the synthesizers are. And I'm looking over fondly at my Micro Brute as I say that. Really great instruments. I was watching Doty recently fawning over the Matrix Brute. And essentially they're not dissimilar in terms of the circuit design of the oscillators and and this particular filter. I know the Matrix Brute has other filters as well and other probably oscillator features as well, but these are amazing signal paths they've made up with these wave shaping and the overdriving of the signal at various points and the ability. It's a nice, very nice filter. It's funny how Niles Steiner kind of couldn't get arrested back in the day when he was making these things. I actually met the man and watched him work on his own gear, and it was an incredible experience to see. But his gear didn't like sell popularly against Moog, Roland. You know, it wasn't like, you know, mass market appeal stuff. It was kind of small potatoes at the time, and it's amazing now that some of the best things about his designs, particularly this filter, have caught on so nicely in the Arturia gear, and they work great. They sound really good, and they're fun to use.
It's interesting.
I really love these instruments.
It's what's interesting to me is, you know, he gave himself a technical challenge of kind of, apparently it took him 6 months to make, which I can totally believe. I mean, obviously that's probably not every day, but, you know, over a period of time. And to limit it to a single instrument, and particularly, I mean, the Steiner Parker filter does have a very specific sound, but obviously he's found all these little spots that just kind of allow it to emulate. And it takes me back to you remember, you know, when the Korg MS-20 used to come with a little patch book and you'd open it up and it would say oboe, clarinet, string, cello, you know, and you kind of patch it up to try and, I mean, that's essentially the kind of modern day equivalent of that, but with all those effects as well. And obviously great skill at mixing and sussing out an arrangement so that it has that stuff. I mean, but it's, like you say, it is a testament to, you know, what instruments are capable of, because very often one is led to the extremes of an instrument settings. You know, you go, oh, it's really angry. Well, it can be, or it can be less. I mean, it's, you know, so it's the space between those kind of those key sounds that he seems to have identified so skillfully. This guy, John Heath, there. I don't know.
He's got a great sense for orchestration, and
yes,
he had a real vision of. Again, I'm not that familiar with the original Hans Zimmer piece either, but obviously there was a really clear vision of where he was going with this. So no, you only use extremes, if at all, in the way like a guy like Tomita used to use them in his interpretations, where he would use extreme. Tomita was kind of famous for using kind of extreme synthy kind of effecty sounds in the midst of some kind of classical reading of somebody's piece. This guy didn't do that much. This guy kind of stayed within some very cool atmospheric orchestration concept and made it speak. And again, it's a testament to the oscillators and the oscillator and that mixer that allows you to take multiple waveforms, change their shaping and their intensity as far as how they overdrive the output. And when you do start looking around for sweet spots in there, there's lots of them, because there's a lot of stuff going on right there in that one oscillator just before you even start filtering it. It's just amazing amount of stuff you can do on that oscillator.
Absolutely. I was just looking for, Ty, who seems to be in the chat room. I know he's working, but he's obviously still keeping an eye on things. Ty Unwin, is a very accomplished composer, said this is definitely about the user rather than the synth. And I would say, yeah, you could a sense of what he's able to achieve with that. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it takes you back to the kind of notion of the bedroom studio. It's like, well, when you'd hear stuff and go, wow, was that done by, all by one guy or by one, it's the creative imagination. And it just great, a great little find that. I really enjoyed that. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to interlude with a little bit of a plug for our own Wave Junction synth. This is the Max for Live synth that we currently offer. It's available for Max for Live at Ableton Live, and it's called Wave Junction, and it has two oscillators, each with multiple different modes, including wave. I've lost for the word. What am I looking at? Yeah, anyway, so it's also got 3 multi-mode filters, which you can actually assign in multiple different ways. It's got 5 ADSRs, 5 LFOs, and a 12-slot modulation matrix. All of this demo, apart from the drums, was done in it with a bit of effects. We got a 10% discount available on this to users of Sonic Talk. If you go to bit.ly/wavejunction and enter the code WJTalk17, that's the code WJTalk17, you get 10% off the price, which is only 20 quid anyway, so you save yourself another couple of quid. And actually, while you're at it, you can pick up the free Mono Junction as well, which is a similar technology, but it's a mono synth and it's free also. Remember, Max for Live and Ableton. I'll let it play out. bit.ly/wavejunction. There we go. Plugs over and done with. Right, let's see. We got another video here. Let's have a look. Ah, yeah. Hey, this one. Let's have this one. Just as we came to show last week, Korg introduced the iMonopoly. Well, it's not Monopoly iOS, which is available as a standalone, also is available as a device, a gadget. They've expanded it somewhat, but I'm so pleased that this is it. I love this synth. I've got one of these synths. Mine is very poorly. So you get unison, you get paraphony, and you get polyphony as well in this one. 4 VCOs, in case you were wondering. There's all sorts of mod destinations, cross modulation, and obviously it's got multi effects in with different things. There we go, cheesy poly. If this is just raw without any processing, then it's an impressive sounding thing. I don't know, Rich. Are you familiar with the Monopoly? I mean, I don't know. It's one of those synths that seemed to pass a lot of people by. It was a big deal because it was 4-voice mono, but it also did poly, and it was very unusual for its time. And I don't know that it really I don't know how big it was really.
It wasn't that big, but it was a significant instrument to me. Excuse me. I'm pretty sure I was still selling keyboards when this thing appeared, and if not, it was the year after, so that would put it around 77 or 78, and it was competing with excuse me, the Oberheim 4-voice on the same sales floor, which is a tough act for anybody to follow, and the CS80 was out there too, but it was an attempt to make a very, very interesting and versatile instrument and offer polyphony as well, and it sounded fantastic. And to me, reminds me of that whole era with the Poly 6. They had a Poly 6 at the time too, and it really does kind of remind me of that whole design phase where they were doing really cool and interesting things, the PS modulars. And I was really blown away by the demo for this thing, and I'm sure I'm going to end up owning it because it really does sound great, and it would be fun to have. I mean, I have all their other stuff. Anyway,
well, I'm
getting it gadget now, and they've. It's funny because I'm not that interested in their hardware, and never have been, but I am really interested in their software, and that's kind of odd in a way.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I recall they were amongst the first of the big manufacturers to kind of embrace the new handheld devices. In fact, they released something for the Nintendo DSi first. I think it was the MS-20, IMS-20, before I think it came out on iOS, before that was available. And they were amongst the first people to kind of develop for the app. So they're, whoever they use, if they're not in-house, I think they probably are in-house, is really on their game. And that's the thing about the Korg stuff. They really do get it together. I think I've got it here. It's $20. You know, it's not a cheap synth, but I mean, it's dirt cheap when you consider what it'll do. And let's see, it only needs 9.3 or later, which is impressive. So 5S, 6 Plus, 6S, 7. So it starts at 5S and up. iPad, let's see, iPad Mini 2, iPad Air 2, iPad Mini 3, iPad Mini 4. Let's see, iPad Pro. Yeah, so pretty much, I mean, apart from the very early stuff, it'll run. And I think there's, you know, it feels like we're getting to the situation whereby, you know, some of these things are going to be really compelling to a lot of people. And we still haven't quite got the, if I buy that and this thing that I could just clip it in and play with, then I'd use it. Because it's all this sort of like clipping it into something and having a clip, you know, that makes it kind of seem to be used less in a kind of front and center. You're not seeing people playing them live, which you'd imagine people would start to do that with this kind of level of creativity and ability, you know, and stuff there. I wonder, you know, where that's going to, when's that's going to start? Because this is starting to get like, why not? This is, you know, where can I get that elsewhere? I guess Gadget for Mac, you run it under that, I suppose.
Yeah, they say they're going to release compatible Gadget software for this. And it gave it a fancy name, like the Gadget stuff has.
I remember, the thing I remember about this synth is because I could never, I probably told the story before, you know, when I was starting out remixing, you know, I'd be using 8-bit samples, an Atari ST, and all my cheap instruments. And whenever there was a synthesizer that was really great sounding, it never used to fit in. It was too big, like a Moog sound, just never fit because it just used up all the space because I was only operating in quite a narrow frequency bandwidth. And the Korg Monopoly for years was my bass synth of choice. You know, I was doing lots and lots of remixes. That was the sound, that was the synth that, and when I'd first earned a little bit of money, it was the synth I wanted. And I just absolutely love it. And I wish I wish I could claim I knew it inside out. I don't, you know, it's actually quite complex and there's a lot of stuff that you could do with it. It's sort of, in a weird kind of way, there's a nod to it, you know, from the Timberwolf is not you know, I think that's only got, has it got 3 or 4 oscillators? I don't remember, but it's a similar concept in effect that you can have 3 separate oscillators. You can't run it multi-timbrally, obviously, but it's just a physically beautiful thing. Did you ever get to play one much, Rich?
I recall a little bit on the sales floor. I played it. I never actually, you know, used it on a gig or, you know, owned one myself or was around it a lot. But it sounded great. I was really impressed with, like I said, all of what they were doing at that time. I didn't own any of it, but I played PS modulars and I played Poly 6s and I played this thing and I played the other various instruments they were coming up with at that point. I think it was a strong period for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we know, summer seems to be traditionally the time when you release software instruments. I wonder what it is about that rather than hardware. Like, is it because you don't have to go to the store? You could download it. It's an easy thing to go on the go. But yeah, it seems to be the time when this sort of stuff comes out and all these bundles and packages and what have you. Seems to be summer. I don't know why.
I don't have any insight into app release dates. No, like, for example, music release dates. There used to be a whole ethos to when you would hold the record off until whatever Christmas or what have you, but you know, in various times of the year you'd know that you stood a better chance against certain kind of markets than others, and people had that all analyzed. And it's probably true of the app business too. I'm just not privy to it.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it seems to be the time when you do. I guess also sometimes sales, maybe in hardware or whatever, are tailing off because people are away and they don't necessarily go to the store. They're not going to be in to receive a delivery, whereas you could buy stuff like this just kind of like, oh yeah, click, I'll have it. It's easier to purchase, and so, you know, you keep your revenues up. I don't know. But
all of that is based in a strong retail paradigm, which I think kind of doesn't exist these days.
No, I suppose not. I suppose not. Oh, however, speaking of hardware synths, we've got the Dave Smith desktop was announced yesterday. Rev 2 desktop, sorry, which is available.
This is my job. It's what I've been doing for 40 years now.
16
It's
voice
one
and
thing
8
to
voice.
build
This is kind of
instruments, but
superseding
going
the
out
Prophet 08, which I
watching
think is
people
now being
actually
retired.
play the instruments is really fun, and that's the real payoff.
Good old Dave there.
I don't think a whole lot about what I did 40 years ago or 20 years ago, because it's much more interesting to be thinking about what we're doing now and what we want to do next. We're not out to conquer the world. We just want to craft cool instruments that we want to make and see how it goes. Every once in a while, though, of course, I reflect on some of the things that have happened in the past because somebody else.
It's a lovely looking thing. The Rev 2 got lots of people very excited. In fact, I don't think I've ever had quite so many continuous and prolonged review requests. In fact, just today, and I have been asking Dave Smith Instruments about this for quite some time, and today I got we got review units of the Rev 2 keyboard available now. They've been fulfilling stuff, so it looks like I'm probably going to get hold of one. I guess that'll probably come into time, just in time for the Rev 2 desktop to be released, which is kind of smart, I suppose. I know. Have you had a chance to play with the Rev 2? I mean, because Dave Smith Instruments seems to have they kind of have this slow incremental build. I mean, apart from the analog poly stuff that they've had, like the OB6, which is a thing of beauty as well. Like the Rev 2 seems to have a bit more going on as well, right?
Rev 2 looked and sounded amazing when I played it at NAMM, which is my only interaction with it. And Dave Smith makes great sounding instruments, and he's a really nice man. And I don't know how much better it gets in life than that when you get down to it. You know what I mean? He makes great sounding instruments. He's a sweetheart of a guy, and he's the kind of guy you want to root for. And we have a Prophet 08 autographed at Niles Studio by Dave Smith, and I'm proud to have his gear. I don't have a Rev 2. I don't do enough. I just haven't. I can't. I really don't have a good excuse, except I just haven't bought one. If I was going to buy one, the OB6 is probably first on my list, but this thing isn't far down.
Yeah, I have to say the OB6 is something special. They captured I think that's the other thing about what they do as well. They create very much instruments. You know, it's not just a set of features. There's something about the whole picture, and obviously that comes from the experience that he's had over the years. And why he hasn't gone radically kind of left or right from the sort of the Dave Smith way, because that makes sense. Apart from right at the beginning when he was like the polyevolver and the funny little he was one of the first guys to create that, to utilize that kind of matrix style of editing, where you have the parameter buttons and the knobs and the lanes of different parameters, and you know, and I think that was probably about as radical as it got for a little while. And now his radicality is kind of almost like, hey, let's make one with real analog oscillators. The Rev 2, obviously, I think it's two oscillators per voice. They're DCOs. But as Dave said, I think I interviewed him at NAMM about this, and he said, you know, the point is like, yeah, analog stuff is great, but what you can do with DCOs now is really powerful, and you can kind of build in that kind of lack of stability. You could do all of those things. I mean, some people, for instance, would never, you know, just never countenance anything else. But I think you can actually think about it in different ways. I mean, I was listening to, there's a Peak demo from Myla Melodies. He posted like just half an hour of him noodling on an Ovation Peak, which has digital oscillators and an analog filter. And crikey, what he was doing with it put my review to shame. It sounded absolutely amazing. And I just, you know, it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter so much. Sometimes it's nice to know you've got them if that's what you really want, but ultimately it's not that important. I'm looking forward to trying the Rev 2 because I know it's got some interesting features and the effects and stuff. And the last Dave Smith thing I reviewed was the OB6 desktop, which I really, really like the sound of it. I mean, it was limited, but it just sounds. It's the familiarity of that sound. You just kind of go, oh my goodness, you know, that's a thing. You know, that is the thing that thing does, and it does it really. I mean, I'm sure it's not identical to, you know, an original OB in the same way that, you know, 230-era instruments will never sound the same as each other anyway. But great, and I'm really pleased that this is happening because he's come under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on the kind of the high voice count polysynths at the moment, the Behringers and the Peak. I think actually this is 8 voice goes for $12.99 US, and I think the 16 voice is going to be $17.99. So it's a couple $100 cheaper than the keyboard. And people kind of dig. I know Robbie, you know, he's He's like, I want a desktop. I haven't got room for any more keyboards. Once you've got the keyboard, then you just plug it in how you want, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, also to get back to Dave Smith, he did go after form factor. In other words, he changed the paradigm of form factor with those smaller instruments, the Mofo and things like that, the ones you describe as having the matrix editing capability. And then came back to the more traditional design when this whole analog thing had just blossomed. But he was not stuck in a particular form factor or even a particular instrument style. And he really seems to be a guy who develops out of his own interests and his own heart, and what he gathers that people will find useful. And so he continues to make instruments with DCOs, even though he could have just quit on at the OB6 and said, all right, that's it. It sounds great. It's analog. No, he's going to keep making better instruments that he likes better and that he wants to, have out there.
Yeah. And as you
I
say,
love that.
He is a really lovely bloke. He's kind of one of my favorite. Yeah. I always love to talk to him. Not only because I always get those little DSI, I've got nearly the set of the DSI tequila shot glasses, but the fact that there's some always, if you ask, there's always, or sometimes it's offered, there's a really nice quality bottle of Patron hanging around somewhere that you might get a little nip to keep you going. Unfortunately for me, the last couple of times that's happened has been on Sunday morning at NAMM, when I'm usually really hungover because that's the night we party. So last time I did that, I said, yes, I'll try a bit. And it was like, oh my God, I cannot drink this. I'm going to have to leave the building if I do this. So I wasted my opportunity there. But yeah, the DSI desktop Rev 2 available from October, they believe. I think we've got a little bit. Have you got time for this last video? This is the interesting ZVOOC 9. This is a brand new controller. They're going to be going to Indiegogo quite soon, and they're pushing quite hard. I think they're showing some ads on, to raise awareness. It's a really interesting idea that you've basically got these 9 pads, but each of them has different zones and controller XY capabilities, as well as just regular, hit them and make a sound. I won't play the whole thing because there's quite a lot of them sitting around in chairs, which is not quite so fascinating. But it looks like there were some people playing it who got some really good stuff out of it. But it looks like it could be a really interesting piece. They were asking me to review it and send them a prototype, review it before Kickstarter, before it's Indiegogo. But I felt a bit uncomfortable with that because that's a bit like either supporting the campaign or trashing it if there's something wrong. But it looks like it's really easy to map. I don't know how much it's going to be or anything, but just as a sort of an interesting idea as a new controller. I mean, you've got a new controller you've adopted one. Do you think that there's an opportunity for even more? I mean, I guess, what if Rowley made drum pads or some kind of control based on that?
The jury is out on this thing for me. I watched the whole video. I saw what they did with it, and I'm not blown away yet, but I haven't closed the door.
Yeah.
How's that?
Again, it's one of those kind of show me scenarios.
Yeah, I'm still from Missouri, as we like to say, where it's not flooded. Which is the show me state in the U.S. When we say I'm from Missouri, that means show me. So
yeah, there's the website here, which
from Missouri.
It does look like it could. I don't know. It doesn't say how much it is. Literally, you're signing up, so they're going to let you know when the Indiegogo thing goes. I just thought I'd play a bit. I just thought I'd play it in because I was just interested to see what people thought about it. ZVOOC 9. I don't know exactly where they're from. I think maybe Czechoslovakia or Romania. I'm not sure. The guy behind it is called Dragan, which is a fantastic Eastern European name. So let's see what other stuff they've got here. So yeah, big pads and layout. Just play, anodize, XY pads. MIDI assignable, velocity and aftertouch, global per pad settings, hardware controls, no menu. So yeah, this is what it's going to look like. Force and location sensitive pads, 7 scales, chords, aftertouch, MIDI over USB and through MIDI jack out. So yeah, Dragan Pozda, Ratko Nima, and Igor Petrovich. So those are the guys. So yeah, guess we'll have to wait and see. But I always,
I mean,
feel
I
like,
never. Sorry.
Oops, wrong button.
I never expected somebody along the lines of a Jeremy Ellis to be able to do on buttons what that guy can do on buttons. So I'm totally prepared to be blown away on this thing. I just don't have a vision of what that is.
No, I think that's fair enough. Well, anyway, I wanted to get it in there, and there's not much more to say about it, apart from if you want to check it out, you go to Zvuk Machines. That's ZVUK machines.com. That'll take you there. You can find out, maybe sign up and see if you're interested. I'm looking at that. I'm guessing it's going to be in the 1,500 euros area, maybe more. That's what I'm guessing. But I don't know. That is a total guess. It may be cheaper, maybe more expensive. I hope it's affordable, because that's the key to a lot of these things. As we saw with the M Piano last week, you know, it's just like such a crazy amount of money, like 8,000 euros for essentially a controller. You know, you've got to really want something and really be prepared to put that kind of time in to learn something. So if the barrier to entry is a bit lower, then hopefully it will end up a little bit more, cool. As your head said, imagine what a Lady Aptitude said. Imagine what I could do on buttons, peyote buttons. Very good. She's very good for the puns. But that's there in the chat room, and also those of us they're in the what kind of Poyan Sonati. Here we go. There's a question we can answer. What kind of innies are you using? I know you were talking about this, but I'm just using a pair of cheap Skull Candy buds. You know, I'm not really using anything fancy. Whereas Rich has got proper ones, I think.
I've got Shure 535s in right now. Those are my backups for live work. And my full-time ones on stage are Ultimate Ears Studio Reference version 2 these days. I was a big fan of version 1, and now I'm a big fan of version 2. And they're very nice people, and like I say, I think make some great products, and have been really, really great to work with.
Excellent. And we were talking sort of in the show preamble about that kind of what's like when you're on stage with the in-ears. It takes a bit of getting used to, but changes your life in many ways.
It's huge benefit to me in what I do and what my role is in the band, and what it's like trying to hear keyboards on a stage coming out of speakers, and how much room it would take up to get it to sound any good, because I really need to hear it in stereo, because keyboards sound crappy in mono. They just do, especially when you're playing synthetic strings. So I am hugely a fan, bigly a fan of my in-ears, on stage. And yet I can introduce you to other members of the band that swear by not using them.
I guess there's people have in between. How loud is there a kind of point at which, you know, do they measure what you're getting? Because we're always told, you know, putting headphones in and listening too loud is obviously very damaging to your ears. So there's, you know, there are limiters and all sorts of volume kind of guards on those in-ear systems, right?
There can be, but I don't want any. I don't want limiter on the belt pack. I don't want that. No. Huh, the signal is already somewhat compressed by the transmission, it seems, but whether that's theoretically supported or not, I don't want compression at the belt pack, and I monitor not quietly, but not nearly as loud as the stage volume.
Right.
Which
and that's
is
enough,
where
I suppose. Because I suppose that's the thing that in-ears have got to kind of, not only have they got to put the sound in your ear, they've also got to stop the other sound from coming in, so that you can hear the sound in your ear without having to crank it too high.
You can choose how much you want that to be the case, and for people who are afraid they're going to feel disconnected, they make them essentially with holes in them that allow you to hear the outside world as well. And then there are guys who stand up there with one ear in and one ear out, and I'll never understand that. But that's what a lot of guys do, particularly singers. And
yeah, I think it's to do with the pitch. It's pitching, isn't it? Pitching, because you hear something through bone and through. I definitely can.
I hear myself better. I hear myself better in the ears than I hear myself taking one out. That's for sure. But some people don't hear it that way, and that's fine. They have a right to hear what they want to hear. We just finished this tour with Earth, Wind & Fire. They're all on in-ears, and there are no guitar amps on stage. So they have very, very tight control of what's taking place actually acoustically on the stage.
apart from the brass, which probably blare it out a bit because brass.
Well, they're playing generally into clip-on lavalier style microphones anyway, so they can move around a lot. And all the guitars are wireless. All the amps are off stage, facing in different directions. They are not towards the audience, and their whole world is run in wireless rig acoustics. You know what I mean? In ears and such. But some bands do that.
We're got a question for you, actually. Bobja Buddha says, Rich, do you have your own volume
control? I have an overall volume control for my pack. People on stage these days, you'll see with small eight fader mixers, and they get a breakout of drums, bass, guitars, vocals, and themselves or whatever, and they can actually do their own mix. I don't do that, and I don't wish necessarily to do that, although I could certainly do it if I had to. So no, I get a stereo feed from our Genius monitor guy, and I can control the volume of what I'm listening to.
Yeah, which should be enough anyway. Okay, I just wanted to mention one thing. NobCon #6 is happening 8th, the 10th of September. We were hoping to have Suit and Tie Guy on today, but he just couldn't make it work in the time we had available. So if you're thinking of going to NobCon, head over to nobcon.com. It's in Chicago. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people there. Tom Oberheim, guest of honor, and we may get to on after the show and give us a bit of a debrief on it. So yeah. Nobcon.com if you want to head over to the big mid. What is that? Is it Midwestern? I guess it's West. What would you? How would you describe Chicago geographically?
It's in the Midwest, northern part of the Midwest. It's along Lake Michigan, the lovely Lake Michigan, one of the Great Lakes.
Lake Michigan. So yeah, if you want to check it out, I think you can get tickets. Obviously, you can stay in the hotel or in the surrounds. I think it's all entirely possible. I think that probably brings us to a close. Before I go, I'm just going to have another very quick plug for our T-shirts and designs. Here we go. We've got a couple of them. We've got the Keys and Wires design. If you just go to sonicstate.com, there's links from that there. You can buy and support the site in various different colours. We've got tees, we've got hoodies, we've got mugs. Particularly like the mugs, actually. I can't wait for mine to arrive. I'd be slurping on it now if it had got here already, but it just hasn't quite. Yeah, we've got the availability in the EU and the US. So when you go there, it'll ask you where you're from, which means if you're in the UK, you don't have to pay for US shipping, and if you're in the US, you don't have to pay for UK shipping. All those good things. That's one of the primary reasons. People go, "Why do you use Teespring?" And it was like that was because of that, primarily. And that was a great. I want to say thanks to Jack for helping us set all this stuff up, and also Jason Mastrandea for doing some designs. We have more designs coming. In fact, I just got sent a draft of a design by a chap called Ben Shannon. He said he wanted to design a T-shirt that he thought Gaz would wear. So this is maybe something that's coming. So as you can see, we've got the golden synth light coming down on Disciples of Synth there, which I think is quite good fun. So we may well make that into a shirt as well. So we'll be introducing more. That's it for this week. Also, actually, before we go, I should mention if you want to enter the competition for Isotope, you got to tweet the hashtag Repair and Restore and the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's for your chance to win Isotope RX6 there. The de facto audio repair and audio restore programs. That's the hashtag Repair and Restore and the hashtag RX6 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So, Rich, thank you very much for joining us and being my foil. I know sometimes it's hard when there's only two of you, but it's never hard when it's you. So thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. So you're around for a while now, right?
I'm around for the next 10 days. And then we're going to South America to play 4 shows there, including the Rock in Rio Festival in Rio. And then we're going straight to Tokyo, where we're playing the Budokan with Duran Duran.
Wow, that's going to be intense.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yep. I'm looking forward
to it.
Well,
thank you very much for joining us, Rich. I also say thank you very much to our chatties in the IRC chat room and also the chatties at YouTube. You can find us there whenever we go live. It should just kind of pop up. But if you're wondering where where you can see the IRC. Sonicstate.com/live. You get the embed of the live stream and an IRC chat. And if you go to YouTube, youtube.com/Sonicstate/live gets you to whatever we're live streaming at the moment. That's it for this week. We want to say thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Cheers, Rich. Oh, sorry, I've muted you. It's the It's an automated system. It's when I hit go, when I hit end, it mutes everybody. It's very clever.
Yeah, it is.
That's it. Thank you very much. See you soon.
My pleasure. Very good.
I hope you have a restful 10 days.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
And you get your laundry done.
Oh yeah. Honey's been very helpful with that. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, then, Rich. Take care.
See you, Nick. Bye-bye.